The four immeasurables. These four immeasurables are love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. The four immeasurables are part of the core teachings of the Mahayana. The practice of the four immeasurables is actually such an advanced practice that only a bodhisattva can truly understand and engage in practice. The fact, without the mindset that sees the world from the viewpoint of the four immeasurables, there will be no such a thing as a bodhisattva. And our degree of realization of this view determines how far along the bhumis we have traveled. The first, love. The concept of immeasurable love in Buddhism is defined by a mindset of wanting others to be happy. This love is unconditional and it requires a great deal of courage and acceptance. Unconditional love requires great courage, and because although it is usually quite easy for us to love others when we can expect love in return, it is far more difficult to love all beings without exception, regardless of how they treat us in return. Unconditional love also requires a great degree of acceptance because it demands that we see beings for what they truly are, including their faults. The closest equivalent to the immeasurable and unconditional love of the bodhisattva is that of the love of a mother for her only child. Regardless of how negative the child may act at the times, the mother remains willing to lay down her life for the sake of her child. Instead, in Buddhism, unconditional love refers to the unattached and unselfish interest in others' welfare. If there is a love, there is a hope that one may have real families, real brotherhood, real equanimity, and real peace. If the love within your mind is lost and you see other beings as enemies, then no matter how much knowledge or education or material comfort you have, only suffering and confusion will ensue. The suffering of the samsara will continue. Now, the second part, compassion. The definition of immeasurable compassion wants others to be free from suffering. This compassion rises spontaneously when one perceives the suffering of other beings and identifies with those beings, the suffering, and their desire to be free of that suffering. Compassion also indicates that we are then motivated to help suffering beings to relieve their suffering with any expectation. In other words, no expectation of return. Upon seeing the suffering of others, we can become overcome with the sorrow and other afflicted emotions that we can even become unable to help in appropriate ways. In this case, the suffering of others actually causes us to suffer as well. However, the immeasurable compassion of a bodhisattva is paired with the immeasurable wisdom to not only see the suffering of others, but also the cause of that suffering and the most skillful way to lead beings out of their suffering. This attitude of enlightened mind is born from the Bodhisattva's ability to see the inseparability of I and other. From Buddhist perspective, we gain great merit from helping others to reduce their physical or mental suffering from a relative mundane point of view. However, the ultimate goal is to extinguish suffering by ending the very cause of all suffering. The attitude of Bodhisattva is bodhicitta, altruistic mind. This is the ultimate compassion and motivation. To wish to become a fully enlightened Buddha oneself so that one may liberate all sentient beings from suffering of secular existence. This is the immeasurable compassion of the Bodhisattva. At the source of both of inner and external peace, they are fundamental to the continued survival of our species. There is a traditional aspiration prayer that can be practiced to deepen our connection with the mindset of the Four Immeasurables. It is translated here as follows. May all beings have a happiness and a cause of happiness. May all beings be free of suffering and a cause of suffering. May all beings never be separate from the highest bliss, which is the free from all suffering. May all beings be in a great equanimity, free of attachment and aversion. The Buddha taught that the practice of loving-kindness is to overcome anger, because loving-kindness has the capacity to bring happiness to others without demanding anything in return. Practice compassion to overcome cruelty. Compassion has the capacity to remove the suffering of others without expecting anything in return. Practice a sympathetic joy to overcome hatred. Sympathetic joy arises when one rejoices over the happiness of others and wishes others well-being and success. Buddha taught the Four Immeasurables. Practice them and you will become refreshing source of vitality and happiness for all of you. Thank you.